Koinant, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And the woes with Eskom just simply don't look any better. In fact, they're looking a whole lot worse now. And what is becoming self-evident in this whole fiasco is that the ANC top leadership are lying to the public in South Africa. They know what's going on. But they're telling these porcupines that everything is fine and dandy when they know it's not. Eskom is in a desperate state of affairs. If it loses much more by way of power stations, the whole thing's going to go down. That's how critical it is right now. Anyway, here's the report. Brace yourself for the worst. Stage 6 load shedding, which the country experienced on December the 9th, is set to become more frequent as Eskom's plant breakdowns remain at dangerously high levels. There you go. That's contrary to what Ramaphosa has said and what David Mabuza has said. They're all talking through you-know-what. Stage 6 means 6,000 megawatts needs to be shed from the national grid to avert its collapse. In Gauteng, where load shedding intervals last 4 hours, Eskom customers could be affected without electricity for an average of 10 hours a day. Imagine what that's going to do to the food in your fridge. Guys, this is why I've been saying for many months now, please, if you're in South Africa, prep. Have spare food, canned food that won't perish. Have lots of drinking water. You've got to start looking after yourselves because this government isn't, okay? Last night, Eskom's tale of woe was worsened by the announcement that Jabu Mabuza, the board chair of Eskom, had quit after the utility could not meet a pledge made to President Cyril Ramaphosa to avoid a load shedding until next week. Last weekend, Eskom implemented Stage 2 power cuts, dropping 2,000 megawatts from the grid, which continued until yesterday, but had demand been at normal levels, it would have been necessary to move on to Stage 6 last weekend. That's because of businesses which haven't opened up for the new year yet. Des Muller, the managing director for New Energy Development, said, "Given the current lack of effective forward planning and poor execution on our capacity expansion strategy, Stage 6 may well be common in the future, for the foreseeable future. Not only does an unreliable power system constrain our economy, but it also deters local and foreign investment into our economy to help alleviate unprecedented levels of unemployment in South Africa." Not a pretty picture. Experiencing Stage 6 regularly would be detrimental. This will place South Africa on par with most African countries where only the minority have access to very expensive or own generated electricity. Energy expert Lungile Mashele said continued outages at Stage 6 could signal the shutdown of the economy. She said industries, businesses and residents will not be able to proceed with business. Further downgrades are to be expected with a negative outlook for the economy. While hospitals are seldom load shed and have generators as backups, this is not the case, however, for palliative care institutions and houses where people are on life support systems. These people are in danger, and there have been fatalities due to load shedding. Load shedding that persists at this nature will have an impact on foreign direct investment, political and economic stability, employment and economic growth. Now, that point about economic stability, I just want to add there that during these times of darkness, crime is going to go through the roof in South Africa. It's going to be like a trigger or just like a signal to these black thugs to go out there and start looting, because in the dark they can get away with a lot more. Just be aware of that. Be prepared. Eskom said plant breakdowns must be limited to 9,500 megawatts of capacity to avoid load shedding. Over the past 2 weeks, however, breakdowns have been substantially higher, reaching 14,096 megawatts last Friday, while Monday's breakdown stood at 13,119 megawatts at 6 a.m. Over 2019 as a whole, Eskom's energy availability factor was just 67%, compared with 72% over 2018 and 79% over 2017. The last 2 weeks of December saw the energy availability factor hit 59.7 and 58% respectively. That's a complete disgrace. That's what happens when you put ANC cadres in there who are just taking a big fat check and not doing the work. Professor Harmut Winkler from the Department of Physics and the University of Johannesburg expects the power situation to get far worse before it gets better. Winkler said, "Things could certainly get worse, especially as some of the remaining coal plants that have been performing reasonably to date also experience major breakdowns. Permanent stage 2 load shedding, occasionally rising to stage 4 or even stage 6, is not unthinkable in the current state of affairs. Some people are even advocating that this is the way to go, as it would make it easier for Eskom to catch up on its delayed maintenance schedule." Winkler said it could take around 5 years before the power utility recovered. You see what the ANC have done to Eskom? And now they've got a couple of white guys who are running the show. Isn't that interesting? And the trade unions are up in arms saying, this is not transformation, this is not putting the black people in charge. Look what they've done to Eskom. They fuckamanied it. Just ridiculous. Anyway. Winkler said, in 5 years, Medupi and Kusile can hopefully be completed, and even more importantly, a massive amount of renewable energy generating capacity can be put in place. The latter, of course, requires governmental support, but the present minister that has the power to initiate the renewable power development process seems to be very slow and even reluctant to do so. Well, because he's completely out of his depth. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just a typical ANC cadre. With load shedding remaining on the cards indefinitely at this stage, Mashele warned South Africans to expect the worst. I'd love to say things can't get worse, but this week we hit an excess of 15,000 megawatts, which was out for unplanned maintenance. This has never happened in the organization's 96-year history. Eskom has a problem with its aging fleet and overdue maintenance, said Mashele. We should expect load shedding for many months to come. Eskom should communicate this as fact. Tell people that for the next 18 months we need to maintain our systems and thus will be at stage 1 load shedding daily. This creates transparency, accountability and reliability. And that is what has been missing in action with the ANC. They've been telling porcupines to cover up what they know is a completely terrible situation with Eskom. Nicolette Pompo van Zyl, editor of ESI's Africa, an energy and industry journal, said the electricity supply industry was likely to remain constrained for a number of years. She said, commercial and industrial businesses and the public must be prepared to actively manage the impact, as we can no longer expect a reliable supply of electricity. The electricity supply system will take years to be brought back to speed. There is also the looming threat of a national blackout. While this may be a distant threat, it could well be a possibility in the future, said Winkler. She said, there is still some way to go before the situation is reached, and I think this is still only a distant threat. Bear in mind also that Eskom preferably likes to schedule its planned maintenance in December-January, as that is when demand is at its lowest. She went on to say, that is why we had stage 6 in December. Some plants were off, even though they were not actually faulty. If there is a crisis looming on the scale of a national blackout, then Eskom will probably return idle plants to operation sooner than planned, though this can take days or even weeks, so I'm not going to claim that a national blackout is not possible. Mashele agreed the threat of a national blackout was real. She said, the reason we are load shedding is to avoid a national blackout. That's how serious the issue is. Load shedding by its nature is an extreme event to try to salvage a system that is not meeting the capacity and is about to lead to a system collapse, which will lead to a blackout. South Africa has only once experienced a national blackout. In December 1975, this was caused by a switch that malfunctioned in the Northern Cape. Should the country experience another, it would signal disaster. A total blackout, said Mashele, would mean a complete shutdown of the economy and possibly the region. No movement, no travel, no food, no water, no work or schooling. People will stockpile food, water and fuel, and the poorest will feel the impact the most. Eskom said yesterday it would continue to work around the clock to increase generating capacity, and blamed years of inadequate maintenance for the system's vulnerability to breakdowns and unplanned outages. Now, on that particular point, I just want everybody to be totally clear on this, that when Zuma was president and Cyril Ramaphosa was a deputy president of the ANC and the country, Ramaphosa was in charge of the ministerial committee that was supposed to be helping Eskom get out of its problem. He was in that position for 6 years. And that's the period they're talking about now, where there was an inadequate maintenance taking place. That's how incompetent the South African president is. This is his issue. He is the one who caused this. He was in charge of the committee that was supposed to be looking into Eskom. And you can see the fruit of his labors. He's a bullshit artist. That's what he is. Now, let's continue. Professor Willy Cronje of the School of Electrical and Information Engineering at Wits University said, a lack of maintenance leading to a large number of generators not being ready for service and resulting in failure of units while generating is why we are experiencing load shedding. Winkler agreed, like with an old car, breakdowns will become more frequent and difficult to fix with age, especially if the car or plant has not been maintained properly. Many of the coal plants still operating were supposed to have been retired by now. Medupi and Kusile are still not finished. Furthermore, they have cost Eskom more than double of the initial projection and are the main reason for Eskom's cash crunch. I also do not dismiss sabotage claims, though the majority of breakdowns are unlikely to be linked to that. Mashele agreed that sabotage could not be ruled out. However, the major reason boils down to maintenance. Eskom's headaches are boiler tube leaks, a common cause of outages and generation loss in thermal power plants. So guys, there you go. I'm sorry, for those of you who are living in South Africa, it looks like stage 6 is on its way as a permanent thing on the agenda, which is absolutely catastrophic for the country. And the real worry is it could get worse. You could have a complete national blackout. I hope as many of those people who subscribe to my channel who are in South Africa have got off the grid, have got solar power. That's the way to go. You cannot depend on this ANC mob, as we've demonstrated so many times. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, stay safe. Bye for now.